Based on some recent studies and some research, we actually found that nearly 70% of AP team time was spent on manual data entry.
Because we're a manufacturing organization, we have so many lines from purchase orders. It saves a wealth of time, and we love this so much.
Why does scaling AP feel so tough at times? And that's exactly what we'll be exploring today. We're going to take a closer look at some of the underlying problems with this outdated tech. First thing is, we're still seeing so much manual data entry. That's a really big problem. And number two, we start to see, controls that cause more harm than good. And then finally, things are still being done in a step-by-step, one-by-one manner. And so we'll be addressing these three issues in this demonstration section now. But to start us off, we're actually going to kick off with the area where AP teams are spending their most amount of time. And so based on some recent studies and some research, we actually found that nearly 70% of AP team time was spent on manual data entry. 70%. Now, I'm not sure about you, but my ideal work week doesn't look like this. That being said, I have had a few Monday afternoons I've had to hide in the bathroom. Now, this is really shocking to me, shocking to all of us, actually, because you'd think by now with all the advancements in technology that, data entry would be a thing of the past. And that was sort of the promise that we were all given. And so let's take a look. We wanted to take a look at, why does this problem still exist? Now, I want you to imagine that you've encountered an invoice like this one. 30 plus line items. There's no clear association between, what's the quantity, what's the unit price, what's the total price. Immediately, it's hard to see what's what. And I can't even begin to imagine or even describe what this invoice is about. Now, most AP solutions use a technology called optical character recognition, or OCR to be short. And traditional OCR, how it works is it's sort of just like a blind copy and paste. It's trained to look at specific areas of the invoice, copy it over and paste it. And I think that's generally works, but that only works for very simple and clean invoices. This type of complex invoice you're seeing up here is the kryptonite to most OCRs. And the unfortunate reality for most of us is that invoices come in all shapes and sizes. Many of you probably have seen much, much worse invoices than this. And when your AP system can't handle that, guess who ends up doing most of the grunt work? It's going to be us. And these are the types of invoices that make us miss our lunch break. Okay, that leads us to our very first problem. What we're seeing is that manual work doesn't end up getting automated. We were all sold a lie. And we end up having to fill in the gaps, double check the data, and before we know it, all that automation and time savings that we were promised are gone. And so I'd like to introduce Matt back to the stage again. He's going to show us live in product how a modern AP platform is able to understand and read invoices just like we do. Welcome back, Matt.
Thank you, Leonard. Can I just get a confirmation that we can now see my screen inside of the Ramp platform? Awesome. Thank you, guys. Well, good to be here, everybody. As Leonard said, my name is Matt. We're walking us through a little bit of a demonstration today. And we are back with that beautifully gross invoice here. And I don't want to belabor the point, but the time it would take to literally upload this amount of information, I mean, let me just scroll here a little bit. I think we're up to 50 line items here. It's formatted in a very peculiar way. I mean, we have different descriptions all over the place. We've got dollar amounts scattered all over the place. It literally could take hours. And that's assuming that you do it correctly. There's so much room for manual error, which really inhibits your process down the line. Now, Leonard mentioned our OCR technology, and that's powerful for a number of reasons. The first would be it's going to expedite us bringing all this information from the left-hand side of your screen over to what I will eventually show you as our filled out line items. But I want to go a step further. Our OCR technology is also able to recognize and process natural language. So what's something you don't see on this invoice? We see the invoice number, we see the date. We do not see a due date for this particular invoice. What we do see are payment terms. In this case, it's net 45 payment terms. So maybe traditionally, one, if you even catch this, you kind of have to do some mental math to associate when was the date, when is the due date, what is it related to payment terms. Well, with RAMP, we are ultimately able to recognize that natural language and automatically configure that within our bill pay invoicing screen here to say net 45 payment terms. We are going to associate our bill due date accordingly to that. That's powerful, right? It might seem simplistic, but when you're running hundreds of these, thousands of these in a given time, that type of tool is really important to have. As I continue to scroll here, this is where you see the other side of the tool, the power of bringing in all this different line item information. I mean, I could literally just continue to scroll and scroll and scroll. You'll see from dollar amount to description, as well as some coding that has been automated for us. Now, in this example, we say we've worked with AVI Consulting pretty often, right? They're a vendor of choice for us. We know on the back end, we can save a lot of time up front by auto coding an invoice from AVI Consulting into the necessary categories that we have, eventually shipping to NetSuite on the back end. So we can configure some of this kind of outside of just the bill pay screen to save us time. The other way RAMP helps us do this is we can have it offer suggested coding as well. So if we don't necessarily want to strictly auto code things beforehand, we can have RAMP begin to automate some suggestions for us. The power of this is as you continue to process invoices over time, the system gets smarter. So as it begins to work with your different vendors, as it begins to digest these, gross invoices, right? It can reinforce over time and the suggestions will continue to grow and refine. So even if we don't want to spend time upfront auto coding things, even if we have to go through this and still code, the suggestions really break down that time gap for us and allow us to refine and ultimately progress things accordingly. So I'll pause here. My first question will be for you, Stacy. Talk to me a little bit about what life was like before a tool like this, when you were kind of manually updating things. And then specifically talk to me about the whether it be NetSuite or whatever accounting partner you guys are using, a tool like the auto coding. How powerful is that for you and your team?
It's been really powerful and so wonderful. Because we're a manufacturing organization, we have so many lines from purchase orders and invoices. So the time savings cuts it by 80%. I've been able to move into other areas due to the time savings that I have, other areas of work like office facilities and real estate. It saves a wealth of time, and we love this so much, the hard coding and the suggested coding.
80%. That's good to hear. Honestly, that's a powerful impact. I will hand it back to you, Leonard. But again, just to show the breadth before I do, we've got 58 different line items here. This would just take us a whole lot of time, and we're able to really automate and speed some of that up. Leonard, back to you. Thank you, Stacy.
Did anyone notice how many keystrokes Matt had to use during that section? Matt, do you remember?
Zero.
That's right. And that is really our goal, zero touch processing. And this is really where we're trying to head towards, where with our advanced OCR, where we want to make sure we put you in the seat in terms of not having to copy and paste and spend a lot more time doing more productive work. And, what would you do if you had 70% of your time back, if we were able to give that back? I know I certainly would like to be watching Stacey's season of MasterChef in the future. Now, let's work through a not so hypothetical scenario. When it comes to managing changes to your vendor information, would you rather A, require CFO approval for every single change, which might risk some delays, maybe risk a pretty grumpy CFO as well, or option 2, which is to have no review at all? and this might introduce some errors or even fraud. This is really the unfortunate reality that most of us have to face. And that brings us to problem number 2. In many AP processes, you're really forced to take an all or nothing approach to your controls. And what this is really doing is you're forced to trade off between control and efficiency. It makes us want a way to do this. Can we have both? And to answer that, I'll hand it back to Matt.